What is up? Welcome to episode number 102. I am Adam Choit. Can you guys hear me out there? Let me know if you guys can hear me. Thumbs up from David in the waiting room. That's good. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and on YouTube, just search Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. It's pretty easy to find. If you're watching, you're already there. I am at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter if you want to follow me. I have another podcast. It's called People We Love. Please check that out at People We Love Podcast on Instagram for that. People We Love podcast.com is the website. I talk to all sorts of other creatives outside of music and outside of the TTB world, and that's been a lot of fun. I also have a short film, The Edited. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's also embedded at the movie's website, theeditedmovie.com. I don't want to talk too much more about that because I want to get started with today's episode, which we will be recapping a couple of shows that the band had over the weekend. We are going to recap Boca this past Friday and Pensacola last night with a couple of special guests who were there. Peter Kleinhenz, who is going to talk to us from Tallahassee, and David Flamm, of course, returning multi-time guest on this show. But that's what I want to do. I want to talk to more fans and get more recaps. So if you're going to shows and you're interested in talking about them and recapping them on a podcast like this, on an episode, feel free to reach out anytime, as long as you don't have some kind of awful criminal record and you're capable of having a conversation about the band and a casual one at that. Feel free to reach out, but let's bring in Peter and let's bring in David. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Adam. How's it going?
Good. What's up, David? You here?
Doing well.
We got everyone. We can see everyone. We can hear everyone. I'm going to pull up comments just in case there are any. How are you guys holding up during whatever year this is? 2020. I think it's 2023. Well, David, I just spoke to. So more Peter, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I just saw Tedeschi Trucks, so I'm doing just fine.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was amazing shows, and we're gonna dive into it. I want to talk to Peter for a second about how you got into TTB and a little bit about your background and kind of just get a little bit of a background for sure.
Sure. I've been into Tedeschi Trucks, I guess, since they formed a band. I got into Derek early on in college, about 2008, 2009. Had a couple of housemates introduced me. First show of theirs, I'm at 22 now. The first show was Columbus, Ohio, Palace Theater in 2012. And most recent one was Boca, but I've seen them in something like 9 or 10 states now, trying to see them in as many states as I can, and been lucky enough to meet and even hang out with Susan and Derek for extended periods of time. So the more I get to know them and the more I see them, the more I love them.
That is so cool. I appreciate you sharing all that. What was it about the sound, like their sound or about them, that hooked you in initially? Was it love at first sound, where like when you discovered Derek and I guess Susan shortly thereafter, that you knew you were going to be a super fan or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Derek, he's world class. I mean, he's as good of a guitar player as there's ever been. I was lucky enough that the second time I ever saw Derek live was with the Allman Brothers, Tedeschi Trucks, and Widespread playing together, and they all played together.
Wow.
Jimmy Herring and Derek interchange really sealed the deal on that one. But the band in general, I just love how, they're so sprawling. They have such a huge sound, and yet they can stop on a dime. They can be so tight and so polished. And I just think that it's so unique. There's just no band like them that's that good, that consistently playing today, in my opinion. So.
Oh, that is so well said. Oh man, because I'm kind of throwing things at the wall, looking for people to come on, and I don't have really a relationship, and have had not very much interaction with you. But to hear you talk about Tedeschi Trucks Band in that way and so articulately, and saying all these things that I agree with, in new, fresh ways, like from a fan who's been a long time fan, is just cool to hear. And yeah, no, I'm just excited to, I guess, dive into the show. So I want to ask Peter, do you play music at all?
A little bit of guitar, but I'm not good. I'm definitely not good, but I can dabble with some chords and some things for sure.
I see. So you've always had kind of an interest in guitar and guitar sound.
Yeah.
So when you heard Derek, it was transformational, I guess, as a music fan. I
Absolutely.
guess we can assume.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's. I'm gonna share the set list from Boca. Was that it? That was Friday night, January 23rd. These are Helene Linden. I hope I'm saying her.
Yes, Helene Linden.
That's yeah. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, and it's okay that I said her full name. These were her photos, actually. But yeah, we got the set list and the art from. Is this? I don't know if you know if this is the art from that particular night or the.
It's their Florida tour merch.
Florida tour.
Yeah.
Which is for like any show that's in the state of Florida over this January.
Yeah, on the back of the shirts, the Florida dates.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love that. That's cool. I'm a fan of the they're signed as well.
I purchased the poster last night at the Pensacola show. I grabbed the poster.
Hell yeah. Damn, they got signed
beautiful.
Too. That's awesome. Look at that. Good for them. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do we start? And again, David, jump into the conversation anytime. You can feel free to ask Peter questions. You don't have to just be listening the whole time. Like, it's all good. This is super casual for sure.
Yeah, I've heard of some of those songs on that list, I think.
This is why I'm able to have the conversations, because I do know all the songs, even if I haven't heard these. But I did hear this show because it was posted, so I did hear most of it. I'll say I heard most of it on via archive. Peter, tell me about your reaction to the show. Well, you can tell me even more about. We can even start before this and tell me about like the venue and getting there and just the whole overall experience, because I always like to get the experience leading into the set list.
Yeah, so people forget how big Florida is. So from Tallahassee, this was a 6.5-hour haul down there. Just to put that in perspective, I could have driven to Chattanooga, Tennessee for the same distance that this was, which is pretty wild to think about. But I actually went with my fiance's stepdad and his friends to the show. The reason I picked this one to go to is I really was hoping for that 1 in a million chance that Mr. Oteil Burbridge would step on stage. There were rumors that he was going to show up at the Funky Biscuit afterwards. Some band members did, but he didn't, unfortunately. He lives in Boca full time. He's not touring, so I thought I had a shot. But the venue is really weird. It's really different. It's right in Boca, so it's like a shopping center a nice shopping center surrounding the venue, and it's kind of right in the heart of everything. They've got all the stuff blocked off. It was a huge hassle to get into. They had one line to get in and no direction, so I kind of went in right off the bat feeling a little down. We missed part of Hear My Dear, which was the first song. But once you're in, it's a really cool venue. It feels much more intimate than it looks like. It's kind of like you picture just like your typical outdoor park, but then make that grander is kind of what the venue was like. And was awesome to share it with, someone who I'd never seen a show with. So it was cool once we got settled in.
Hey, Peter, I heard that people like out on the promenade could actually kind of hear the show as they're walking by, shopping, or whatever they're doing. The music was kind of available to everyone.
For sure. And so while we were standing in line, this guy next to me and I got talking, And he had this really cool app I had never seen. You guys probably both know about it, but you can actually mix sound on the app that's coming in like ambient wise. And he was standing out there and he actually had a professional mix of the sound coming from outside the venue. And he gave me his earbuds and I listened to it. It sounded perfect. I mean, it sounded just like you were in the show. And he was just standing outside mixing he had the bass and the treble and all the things. And he was kind of fading it in and out and mixing it. And there were several people out there listening, just standing and listening, much less like the people shopping and hanging out in the shopping center. So
wow,
yeah,
free music. Yeah,
yeah.
For future reference, now I know I need to dig up at least some more pictures of the venue outside the venue, and that will be helpful. Even if they're not necessarily of that night, just for frame of reference. Okay, we're mental note, or I'm recording it, so I don't need to make a mental note on that. I'm picturing the Boca Shopping Center. It sounds like it's the ideal Florida setup.
It's so Florida,
quintessential. Perfect. It's perfect.
Hoity-toity, I think it is, Adam, there in the Boca scene there.
Yeah. Well, when in Rome, I mean,
that's right.
You have to, like you said, it's in the heart of what Boca is all about. So I guess we can get into the set list, the music. Oh, you're saying Here, My Dear, you came in the middle of it.
Which I was bummed because I love that song. I actually was at Daly's place last year when they played the album in full. And so I saw the first, what I believe was the first time they ever played Here, My Dear, live, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I was a little bummed I missed that. Highlights in set one for me. I thought Fallen was a little slow. I didn't dig that as much, and neither did some of the people I was around. But
hey, we're all friends here.
Yeah.
They do play it at different tempos sometimes.
They do.
I guess so.
And I like the song. I thought it was a little slow on Friday, but I Am the Moon's always good. And where they like really punch it at the end was really cool. And a bunch of people that were sitting stood up again when they did that, which was really neat. Ain't That Something was really funky. You guys listened to the show, I think. You heard that.
Right.
They gave it some more pizzazz, and that was pretty cool. It was kind of, it reminded me of like almost like a early 70s like funk soul kind of, I don't know. It had a little groove to it.
I feel like sometimes it sounds like a Billy Joel song almost a little bit.
Really? Yeah,
that's what I like gave some of the way Billy, even like a 90s Billy Joel, an early night, or like
Gabe kind of has that vibe,
like,
a little bit,
for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that they slowed down Fallen to match more of the vibe of the median age of the audience?
That's a really good question.
I was kind of kidding a little bit, but
maybe. I mean, it was after the first song. I mean, there were definitely some people standing, but people started to kind of sit when that song started, and I don't know. It's hard to tell, but yeah, I don't know. It just felt a little, it didn't feel like it was song 2 of a show to me.
Yeah, there's different versions of Fallen that I've heard over, that on the archive.org that some do have a little bit more of an upbeat versus other ones that again slowed down, like you're saying.
That one's been growing on me. I like it. I like it, Mike.
I
love his lyrics, and I think they kind of jazzed it up a little bit at the end in some versions. I don't know how that version was, but we heard it earlier in Florida, and I thought they got into a good groove towards the end of it, but I can see exactly what you're saying. It can be a little kind of quiet early in the show.
Yeah.
I've listened to the song, or some version of the song, probably every day for the past 6 weeks at least. I don't know what, maybe since it came out, for all I know, but like I've been consciously choosing to listen to that. Like all of the, like I was saying to David last episode, all the stuff that Mike contributes to Tedeschi Trucks Band, it really stands out, and it's different in a really unique way, but yet fits within everything that Tedeschi Trucks Band is all about. And I think his creative contributions to the band, and especially inspire the rest of the band and get them excited. Like Derek seems to smile when they're playing this one. I've noticed, either on the videos or even just seeing shows live myself last year. Like, so yeah, I mean, Mike brings such a unique talent to this thing.
Yeah, you know, you can tell he just when you hear interviews from the band and stuff, you can tell he garners a lot of respect from them. I mean, he's Harvard educated, which is always just like mind blowing to me. I mean, he's clearly so intelligent, and yeah, I always, you know, I know this is kind of like a weird generalization or something. He always seems kind of like the wise elder to me. Like it always kind of seems like I don't know how to say it other than that, but he clearly brings a lot of like wisdom, and I know that they refer to him as like the part of the core of the band, which he is obviously. And you know, some of his stuff I'm not as into as others, but I will say every time I see them live and he steps up to sing, I'm always excited. I'm always like, okay, this is going to be unique and different and cool. And like you said, it's obvious that the band loves when he does anything basically. So
yeah, and as this band keeps going and going, like their catalog grows, which also means more Mike songs. Are just more Mike songs to choose from, and then you're getting even the element of like some surprise at some shows at first, like, oh, like Mike hasn't sang that in a while, and then obviously he does a whole bunch of covers on top of all the, you know, the original stuff that he's contributed to the band. Yes, we will. That's David's favorite song. That's how you use that as a clip.
Good one. That was a highlight of set one for sure.
That's a killer, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great song. It lends itself really well to the live show, and that was another one that got people, you know, moving and dancing and stuff. And I love that song. So clearly, David, you and I are on the same page about that one.
It's also funny, Peter, you mentioned some of the, like you were at Daly's. So, you know, I go to a lot of Florida shows too. We were at Gainesville at the same show. Yep. We didn't know it. We were in Jacksonville before, same show, you know, didn't know it. So we'll have to, we'll have to connect up next time I'm down in Florida.
Absolutely. They've played Tally a few times. And what I don't know if either of you guys have listened to the show they did right after COVID, where they did the small version of the band at Daly's place. I think they did a few shows like that, but that was a real highlight.
Yeah, I was at both of those shows. They did two nights. They did two nights there, I think. Yes.
Yeah. That was pretty neat.
The Fireside Live. Oh gosh, it was great.
Yeah. But I'll tell you guys. So my highlight of the whole show, actually, maybe favorite or maybe second favorite, but "Circles Around the Sun." That song. I'm sorry, that song kicks ass. They played that in Gainesville. They played it again in Boca. And what I love most about it, other than how good the song is how at the end they play that recorded track, and everyone in the crowd is just like, "What the hell is this?" I love that.
Yeah,
I love that they do that.
Yeah, even the regular fans are like, "What the hell is going?" Like you feel like, because it's unexpected to get that from Tedeschi Trucks, but it's on the album. But isn't it more of an introduction for Pensacola than an end for Circles? But it comes on while they're playing Circles.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But they did the same thing for I guess they did Circles into Pensacola at Gainesville too, if I remember.
That's going to be a thing for a while, I think. Circles into Pensacola, I could guess, especially with the Pensacola audio track.
Yeah.
On top of it, the vocal, the voiceover, whatever. It's such a cool psychedelic sound. I can't even really think what other Tedeschi Trucks band song does it like even remind you of. It kind of stands out in a lot of ways. I don't know. I find it hard.
It's pretty unique. And I've always wondered, I don't know if you guys have ever wondered if there's any like paying homage to the band Circles Around the Sun, who I also love, which, you know, that had like Neil Casal in it, and who they've recorded a song of, Day in the Sun.
And mentioned, I think there's something to that. You're not the first person to, I think there's something to that a lot of what the band does has meaning to them and to fans and on multiple levels. I think that's, and you kind of learn, and myself included, you kind of learn as you like dig deeper. I have not been in this whole world as long as as long as you have, like, I kind of discovered them right around when they formed in 2010, 2011, like that. So I didn't really know much. I knew of Derek, I kind of knew of Susan, but I wasn't like, I knew the Allman Brothers hits, like, but
Sure. Yeah.
until, this band, I didn't know about this stuff. So it's cool to, like, when you learn more, you just appreciate the music on a deeper level. I don't know. It's been fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of hidden things, and like Pensacola, like multiple people around me. I mean, I think you guys have both heard this a lot, like that song compared to Mountain Jam. And certainly there's a connection there. I mean, there's no doubt. But a lot of people around me who weren't familiar with their music were commenting, "Oh wow, this sounds just like when Derek was playing Mountain Jam and with the Allman Brothers and stuff." And you guys have seen them too. I mean, have you felt like Pensacola just keeps getting better and better? Like, they are rocking with that song. Gainesville was really good. This was good too, but I thought the Gainesville version was a little better. But they're kicking ass with Pensacola for sure.
Yeah, we got a real good version also last night in Pensacola. And what I thought was different about that one was the drumming. When they went to the kind of the drum duet, it had a lot more oomph. There was not as much of the quiet, calmer part of the drum. It was more full on. Falcon and Isaac were I thought they were getting it pretty hard, which to me was a bit different than some of the ones I'd heard a little bit earlier. So it's kind of cool.
They're probably pushing themselves and challenging themselves and doing different things to keep them fresh. I can't even imagine what it like, the way their brain is like operating when doing that together. So it's hard for me to even like explain or whatever, try like to describe, what goes on during that song. But that kind of is in a lot of ways the highlight of the song. The song live is seeing what Falcon and Isaac do and listening to what Falcon and Isaac do. But in terms of like the composition itself, it is right there with Mountain Jam and Liz Reed and all these things. And it's so cool that Tedeschi Trucks Band is actually putting out like these instrumental songs, or put this out, and maybe there's more of that to come. They put out like that Shrimp and Grits interludes and a couple like the outros on like the I Want More and things like that, or whatever.
The Storm was kind of like that, where they built it, had a little drums, and then kind of came back in with the guitar. And I love
these like compositions, that these Allman Brothers style or inspired compositions. I hope that we get more of it, and I don't think it'll be. And even this wasn't like forced or anything. I don't think Derek planned on this being this epic beast that it became. I think I've heard him talk in interviews and a little bit about like how the song came about. So
I think a lot.
We'll get more like it.
I think a lot of them contribute. I think that's one of the only songs where Brandon got some writing credit on there for some of his bass line, and I think Falcon on the drums, and there was and Gabe. I think there was a lot of collaboration on what finally became of that, from probably Derek's initial riff.
Yeah. I love that it pays tribute to Pat. I went to Pensacola with some friends not too long ago, and the guy there was telling me that Derek and Susan like brought him out at the Fox Theater to show some of his artwork or something. It was like displayed at the show, and maybe you were there, David, in Atlanta, the Fox. And
we were. I was going to say, Adam, when you come back to the Fox, not only you've got to go back to the big house, but you're going to have to go down to Pensacola.
Yeah,
I know. What's her?
Make a pilgrimage to there. We actually tried to go by there, Peter. They're not open every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we were on one of our concert weekend. We were heading down through near Columbus for something, and we were going to stop in, but it wasn't open that day. So I have yet to go in. So we've still got that on our list to do. So that's cool that you've been there.
Yeah, multiple people when I was in Atlanta at the Fox with my dad were like offering to drive us there, but we just didn't have the time to get over there. Eddie Owens Martin, Saint Ohm, that's the artist, the hippie creator who created the whole place.
Created
What
the
did
place.
yeah? What did you tell us more about Pensacola and like your experience there?
Well, it's in the middle. I mean, I had read that it was in the middle of nowhere. You guys, it's in the middle of nowhere, like dirt road, middle of nowhere. And they talk about the founder and how Bruce Hampton used to go there all the time, which was really cool. A lot of people you guys would both recognize have been there. But what was really neat is I walked up and immediately it's like, oh, there's where they were playing in the video. Oh, there's where they took that photo and that photo. And then the guy who is the current artist, who I guess is friends with Derek and Susan and went out to the Fox and stuff, he actually walked up to me and he's like, how did you find out about this? And I was like, well, I'd heard about it from a friend, but then, the Tedeschi Trucks videos that came out with their new album. And he's like, oh yeah, they were so wonderful and so nice. They were here a couple months ago. And he had all kinds of stories about hanging out with them and stuff. And he like everybody, he just had nothing but good things to say about them. They're just such solid human beings. And that was kind of my takeaway is he spent like 3 or 4 days like shooting, and then they did still photos one day. They had he had all these stories about bringing, that camel they had. I guess the camel was like stubborn and they were trying to get it all situated and stuff. But he basically, the takeaway, he just said it was awesome to hang out with them. And Adam, you got to get down there. Everyone listening to this has to go to Pensacola. It's super, super cool. It's really cool. So
speaking of kind words about the band, we have a comment here. Reba Brewington. I'm blessed in that I sold merchandise with the band for a few years. It was a wonderful. Yeah, that's what everyone says about the band who's had any sort of interaction with them, be it as an acquaintance in passing, friendship, in interviews, whatever. Everyone has such kind, amazing words to say about them, and that seems to permeate throughout the whole band in terms of like just, I don't know, how they interact with each other and how they collaborate to produce this music.
Yeah,
super cool stuff. I Can't Make You Love Me. Is that the Bonnie Raitt cover?
I can't remember if it was Bonnie Raitt. I didn't actually recognize that song, but a lot of people were singing along to it. So
yeah,
yes, it's a old Bonnie Raitt song. Yeah, okay. Beautiful. Of course, Susan kills it. Yeah,
it was awesome. It was the perfect song to end that set because everybody was like up singing along. Like all the older women were getting into it for sure, and Susan just crushed it. Yeah, I remember that one really well, actually, from the show. And it was cool. I had never heard them play it, so that was cool.
Was that just her and Gabe, or is that with the band?
Hard.
Yes, it would have been. I saw it earlier on the
right, you mentioned.
Peter, and it was my first time for Anna and my wife and I, our first time hearing it live. And it was just Susan and Gabe, and oh man, you can hear a pin drop where we were. It was, and she just kills it. And then of course she gives all the credit to Gabe for playing the keys. She kills the vocal.
That's awesome. I didn't realize they played it, but where did you see them play it the first time?
Oh, I think might have been Clearwater. Might have been the Clearwater show, and I think they played it a couple of times. I think they played
last year.
Yeah, might have debuted it at the Beacon. I wasn't at that particular.
Right, I think I've heard it.
Yeah, you might have. Yeah, maybe. Adam, you've caught
they definitely played it. Yes, I forget what I've seen live and what I've just listened to live, because I may have listened to some shows that I haven't been to 7,000 times, but only listened to the one that I actually went to a handful of times. So it's like, oh, I don't even remember. Maybe I just heard it live or I was there, but yeah, they did it a few times last year. No, yeah, it's good to put that one in the first set because the more people drink, the more we're probably likely to cry. So I don't want to be crying too much like in the second set. If Susan's gonna break that out, probably get some tears when they brought it out for what they did it before the encore to close the set. It was later in the set when you saw it, David, I think, right?
Yes.
Right.
It was, I think it was the first song of a 2-song encore. So just she and Gabe came out first as the encore, and then they brought the rest of the band out for I don't know, might have been a show me or something like that they finished with.
Yeah. Do I Look Worried? classic TTB
Always classic.
song.
Oh, the way they stop it, they just right at the end. I love.
Everyone loves that. Multiple people have brought that up.
Oh, he's just like up there on the slide, and then it just, and I just love that. It never gets old. That's a great song.
That's some of my favorite Derek's work on that song. Love that one. Yeah, it's played probably as much as anything. But yeah,
I was gonna say
never get tired of it. Never.
Always. And the band doesn't.
No.
And what I like too, I really like actually when they play that early in the show in the first set. Sometimes they open with it or like second or third song. And what I always like, I've seen a couple shows where he did this, where Derek's kind of subdued, maybe the first song, maybe into the second song. And then that first solo and Do I Look Worried? And he just lets it rip and it just like pierces everything. I love that. I love that.
The first guitar solo. Well, I would say the first slide solo and the first non-slide solo from Derek, those always get huge pops. Just listening back on the albums, like that first time, because sometimes he doesn't get a solo on the first song, or sometimes even two.
Exactly.
And obviously that's a conscious choice to kind of like build tension. There's no accidents with this stuff. But yeah, classic TTB song. I would guess that it's been played more than any other song because it came out the second album. There's been no period of this band where it's like it was not where it was just wasn't on a long leg of a, they just took it off a leg of a set list or a tour rather.
Yeah.
So it's just a constant, and I get it. It's like a show-stopping thing, and it's got such ups and like peaks and valleys within the song, and it's a defiant song, and it kind of makes it fun. And Derek has a great solo, and she has a powerhouse vocal, and the horns and the whole band. I think the whole band is. It's no one. Yeah, it's a all 12 song, right? If I'm correct.
It's a package for sure. It's always a package, and yeah, that's one I just never. Not that I get tired of any of them, but that's one that I always love. As soon as they start playing, I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. So.
Yep.
Stand back.
Yep. Very cool to bring that back into the set list.
Freaking sweet. It's a great solo on that. You guys listen to it. I mean, just to hear him play Allman Brothers anytime is always a treat. So that was great. Honestly, guys, it's Mr. Clean through Emmeline. Don't really remember that well. I don't know why. No, but it was. Those were just not for I mean, if I'm being honest, they weren't highlights for me. They weren't
still awesome though, but within the context of TTB, I feel like that's
they were just points where maybe I was like I don't know what I was doing, but I don't know.
That's a little bit of a blur.
What I do remember, what I do want to highlight though, this version of Gravity was phenomenal. I remember that one really, really well. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Like that song is just a classic right out of the gate. That was a really, really good version too. They played it in Gainesville too, right, David?
Yeah. That's one of Gabe's, man.
Yeah.
He kills that.
Yeah.
He wrote it, sings it, not gravity.
Yep.
Yeah. It almost has like I mean, not that I have the sensibility, but it sounds like it has a pop sound to it and a pop sensibility to it. Like I feel like obviously we're gonna probably talk or we could get into like the whole thing with like them having the song in the car commercial in the Chevy commercial. But like Gravity, I feel like could be in like a movie or something, or in some kind of like, be used for some other thing in a pop, because it's like does have a pop vibe to it.
Yeah, definitely a catchy hook. Yes, definitely.
Right.
And a big sound. Like when the background singers are singing and the chorus and stuff, it's just like a full. Yeah, exactly. It's just like a full sound. I don't know. I really, really like that song a lot.
I think the band does too.
Yeah, it's a good one. It gets people grooving and stuff, and it was excellent. Just Won't Burn. David, you remember they busted this one out for the first time in forever up at Daly's place in I think that was the fireside.
Yeah, the fireside. That's where it made its yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So that
it's a go-to, I think, and it's a Susan spectacular high. I mean, it's just all her. I mean, well, and they're playing it a lot. I mean, they played it almost every night on the Florida run, and it just was, a highlight each and every time I heard it.
Couldn't agree more. It was solid, and I just think it's neat that I don't know. It's so cool that the band isn't pushing away their past. They're like, let's bring in some Allman Brothers. Let's bring in Susan solo. Let's bring in some Derek solo. I just think that's awesome that they could obviously they have a deep enough catalog. They could do Tedeschi Trucks all day long, and yet they're still, finding things and pulling things out. And I don't know. I think that's awesome. So, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the song "Midnight in Harlem" before.
I thought they skipped it that night.
They did.
Yeah, I think they did. Right.
They jumped in. They did jump into Walk on Gilded Splinters, and that was freaking sweet. I don't think I've ever seen them play that, and it reminded me of the honestly the Dwayne Allman, the one that he plays on. It had that kind of slide heavy funk to it, and it was really cool. A bunch of people were up dancing on that one, and it was I don't know. That was a really good one. That was the highlight of the second set for sure. I think Circles Around the Sun, Pensacola was probably my highlight of this whole show, but that was definitely the highlight of the second set. And they just laid the funk on thick on that one, which was really cool.
Yeah, Mike has great vocals on that. And it's funny, Adam, we were talking once before about certain songs in certain venues when you've heard them or whatever. And I can remember a Gilded at the Beacon. I don't know if it was last year or, I don't know, but one night it just seemed like it had the whole room shaking,
Yeah.
That tribal vibe. And it was just, it sounds like maybe that you got one of those, Peter.
It was really funky. It was really good. And, just long sustains with the slide. And it was really, really cool. It was, what was really cool actually is, the guy I went with, my fiance's stepdad, future father-in-law, he wasn't as familiar with Tedeschi Trucks songs, but obviously knew Walk on Gilded Splinters, and he's big into Jazz Fest and all that, so it was a real treat for him, and he was really pumped, and that was just cool to see.
Awesome. Yeah, nice.
It looks like a super strong closing to the show, going into I Want More and Soul Sacrifice, and then Show Me. That's a real upbeat, that, there's no, they got their Just Won't Burns out of the way and the Emmelines.
They went for it.
And yeah, and got right back into the rollicking, upbeat, funky
they
circus that is Tedeschi Trucks Band, of course, on Show Me, I'm sure with Derek and the horns and who knows what was going on.
Yeah, they went hard on I Want More, Soul Sacrifice, as they always do. But Show Me, that is such a cool way to close the show. I mean, just featuring, they kind of threw the spotlight on the different members, the horns and the vocalists and stuff. And I remember Mark got a chance to sing on that one, which was really cool. Which I always love. I love Mark Rivers so much. He's awesome. And yeah, it was a great way to end the show. It was a little, I don't know. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't as good as the Gainesville show, but it was still better than any other show you could possibly, you know what I mean? So their base level is always really high. And so it was great. So.
Yeah, that's what I always have to almost remember. And is we're not comparing to everything else. Tedeschi Trucks Band is 11 out of 10, Absolutely. But to Tedeschi Trucks Band, they could be a 9.1 or a 9.6, when you're comparing them, or 9.9 when you're comparing them to themselves, kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, it was a good show. I was pumped.
This is Sunday. This is the This is last night.
This last night.
Oh man, we're doing a quick turnaround.
Yes. Well, I do have to say I am jealous though, Peter. My wife and I, we did 4 of the Florida shows, and we did not get an I Want More, and that's my wife's favorite. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of glad they didn't play it, because there's no way I could have sat down during that. So
that's right.
Somebody would have been yelling at me for standing up and dancing. But I'm glad you got one of those. But we were in an old theater, the Saenger in Pensacola, very old, had never been in there. It was cool looking. It was old, had a cool vibe. I've been to Pensacola Beach and been around. I'd never really been into downtown Pensacola. Really cool little vibe in the area there. And just to kind of set the scene for you, Adam, it was obviously the NFL playoffs were going on. So there was a lot of bars going with the game on, and the first game was on. And, so it was just kind of a buzz around the little town there. And right across the street was a place called the Old Hickory Whiskey Bar. I don't know, Peter, if you ever seen a little bitty hole in the wall. They say they have like over 650 bourbons and whiskeys. And my wife and I went in there the night before, because we went down the day before. We skipped going to Orlando, even though a friend of mine called me and said, I have 2 tickets for you. They're on the house. And I was like, well, 6.5 hours to Orlando, then 6.5 hours to Pensacola, then 5 back to Atlanta. I said, okay, for probably the first time ever, I'm going to pass on a TTB show. And as it turned out, we had so many friends at the Orlando show. They weren't really keen on the venue, but they said the show, the set list, everything was amazing. So, of course, I was kind of kicking myself, Sunday morning that we didn't do the extra drive to Orlando. So we went into the bourbon bar, and I was like, wow, wonder if Derek might come and have a bourbon here before or after the show. I thought, like, this is the perfect spot for Derek to come in and, have a beverage. What a great place to maybe bump into him. And as it turns out, I was looking through their menu, and I ordered a Jefferson's Reserve. And I don't know if you saw the interview with Derek with the bourbon guy.
The bourbon man.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I guess the guy had turned Derek onto. And so I saw that. So I ordered it literally. And I mean, I don't buy the expensive. I'm kind of middle of the road, lower end. But the smoothest bourbon I'd ever had. And I do like the Wellers and the Buffalo Trace. But this Jefferson Reserve I was like, come on, Derek's got to come in here, after the show and have a Jefferson's Reserve together. But lo and behold, it didn't happen. Guess what? It didn't happen.
You got your Jeffersons though.
Yeah. Now it sounds smooth. Like I want one myself. Like, just as I get older, I appreciate the smoothness of whiskey that much more with each passing year.
Well, some of them will have that little burn, the first sip. This one was smooth from the first sip. I mean, it just was, I was blown away, because then I had something else. I had to try something else, right? You're there with 650 different. So I tried something else, and it was such a letdown after that Jefferson's Reserve. So I was a little disappointed in that. But so I did go back before the show, and I had a Jefferson's before I went into the theater. And as I have to kind of brag, my 89th show, Peter.
Wow.
But I haven't been into them as long as you. First time I saw Derek and Susan was at the Wani Festival in 2013.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was my first time. And I think what blew me away was the first night the Allman Brothers played. They did Blue Sky, and Derek solo on that. I was like, I like this guitarist. I'm like, I was just blown away. And I was like, I got to hear more of this guy. And then the next day, TTB played, right? So I got to see them for the first time. And as it was, you might not remember, but I'm a set list junkie. they actually opened with Midnight in Harlem. So that was the very first TTB song I had ever heard. That was the first thing they opened with. Crazy that they opened with that, but that's what they did that afternoon at the Wani Festival. But yeah, here I'll get into the set list. There, I'm wandering here. Adam, pull me.
No,
back
it's good. I'm listening. I like this format.
I'm wandering.
But I like this format. Me listening, you guys entertaining me.
Peter, the Wani Festival, that was my favorite. We went when I went in 2013. I went every year until they shut it down.
Yep.
You know, it was great.
Yeah, that was a special one. And but remember Butch played on the side stage with North Mississippi. I mean, stuff like that. I feel like it just doesn't. I mean, it happens, I guess, but yeah, that was a special.
He had that thing called the Freight Train Band. Yeah. They played on what they called the Mushroom Stage. Adam, a real small little stage amongst the Spanish moss, and I mean, it's just a spectacular. I mean, probably one of the coolest settings ever to see live music. This little bitty stage amongst the trees. You just, they're standing in front. You pull up your chairs. If you want to sit in the back, you can sit in the back, stand in the front, and it's just a hell of a great time. Great time. And I was probably one of the older ones there, at 60 or so. But we loved it. We went every year. So it was a great thing. And the Allman Brothers started it, I guess, in the early 2000s or something, I guess it was.
Yeah.
But so actually before the set list here, Gabe solo opened. So Gabe came out and did 30 minutes by himself on the keys and was
just
really
him?
well.
Just him?
Just him. Just
solo.
Just him.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah, just solo. Told a couple of stories, and he was playing one I think he said was on his last EP, and he started playing. And he got to like the second verse. He goes, "Damn, I forgot the lyrics. I forgot the words." He goes, "Somebody Google that and tell me the lyrics."
Oh, that's awesome.
So funny. He just humored it up, and then played some piano, and then went back into the chorus or whatever. And I mean, he was terrific. 30-minute set of him, talking and just playing by himself. It was awesome.
What an intimate vibe it sounds like. A little look into, part of the band, what makes up Tedeschi Trucks, and then of course giving Gabe a chance to express himself with his own, solo music and all that. Sounds super cool. I wish I would love to see something like that.
Yep. I've got a couple of runs on my right on my Facebook page. I'll probably upload them to YouTube. But two of the songs I recorded two of what he did. And it was a small venue. I don't know if maybe 1,500 or something. It seemed like a very small compared to even, I think it was smaller than the Gainesville, which was probably only like 1,700 there. Pretty small venues that they were playing. So yeah, it was really cool. And again, a lot of people are probably not TTB diehards like we are. So probably a lot of them didn't know Gabe, he introduced himself, said, "Hey, I play keyboards," so they probably didn't know,
sure.
His tie at the beginning there, but he got, great response, and it was a great set. The band came out, crowd went nuts, sat down quickly after they stood up for them to come out. And I noticed immediately that Susan didn't grab a guitar. And usually she's playing guitar on the first song of the night. She's something, and whether it's rhythm, some lead, something. And I looked to my wife and I was like, "No guitar." And then all of a sudden you hear Gabe on the keys and you're like, "Oh man, the Letter. What a great opener." And of course I popped out of my seat and somebody behind me was, maybe you shouldn't be dancing or whatever. So, but what a great opener. I mean, the Letter was just amazing. And then as you got, Peter, we got Do I Look Worried? And I always, out of all my shows, I would say almost everyone that I've seen Do I Look Worried at, it's in the 2-hole. Derek loves that one in the 2 slot.
Getting hot.
Yeah, he loves that one in the 2 slot. And again, this was nice again because the first couple of shows, just like you got, it was most of them were all starting with 2 or 3 songs from I Am the Moon. So it was kind of different than that. And then they went into Playing with My Emotions, which is one that's grown on me. And I think they're jamming more on the end of that one now. I mean, they're really playing that one out. And it's that one's grown on me a lot. Really catchy. And then we got an Ain't That Something. That funky, and Gabe, sings a good bit on that, and love that one.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I love what they're doing on playing with my emotion. I got to see if hopefully maybe there's some audio that comes out of that show, because with the harmony vocals, it's like haunting at the end, and the whole sound, and just like adding these new elements. It's exciting to see like how these songs grow on the road and what the band is doing with them. And I like how they started out this set list with not having any of the new stuff. And I think it's going to be even not better, but like it'll be nice when you see more and more sets like this, where it's just like you don't know when you're going to hear the new stuff. It's not going to be like they're not going to play like the full albums or like 3-4 new ones in a row. That's going to be like one. They're going to split them up and throw them all around the set list, which I always say they can pick the set list out of a hat anyway. But
yes, but Derek he crafts them. He knows what he's doing.
Right, and they're also I was gonna say that's good, but they also like are very conscious of what album comes from what. They're like, oh, we don't want to put 3 Let Me Get By songs in a row. We want to have like they're conscious of how long the songs have been out and which albums they're from. At least it seems like it. Like you're saying, Derek, puts a lot of thought into it. Considers
he
a lot
really
of things.
Does. And then we got A Life Is Crazy, which I think was the first time on the Florida run. I think it was the first time this year that they played it. And I mean, Mike's vocal on that song, again, as I say, I don't know how he doesn't have his own band. I mean, that he's not, filling arenas himself. I mean, he's just amazing. His vocal, and then we got some keys from Gabe on there, and obviously Derek with the solo. I mean, he always gets a big standing ovation after Life Is Crazy. It is so well deserved. It was beautiful. I love that song. Love that one.
This band could have any of these songs can close a set. I feel like honestly looking at this point. especially this set list, I feel like any of these songs can actually close a set list, and other bands can't say that at all. So that I don't know, we're spoiled. I'm right to be a fanboy.
And then we got the commercial song, right? I'm just kidding. Anyhow, which, as I've told you many times, it's my son's favorite song. My son is 32, so that's his favorite, and it Susan on that one. I always love to do that one on my Facebook Live, and I just zoom right in on Susan. I mean, when you do a Facebook Live, you can really zoom in. If you're doing just a video on YouTube, you can only get so close. So it's kind of, sometimes I trade a little of the audio quality to get a little bit more of the video quality. It's a trade-off. So some I record right to YouTube and some I do off of Facebook. But anyhow, I just love to get focus in on Susan, because her vocal on that, and then the horns, that one kills me every time. And then, like I said, first thing, my wife Ann looks to me, and they go into Chevrolet, and we just started laughing. I say for the first 30 seconds, I couldn't take it serious. I was just like, Derek, you prankster here.
That's so awesome.
Going from the Chevy commercial, and then going into the Chevrolet song, it just cracked me up. It cracked me up. And of course,
Go on.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, what we've talked about a lot before is like how when you go to a TTB show, you kind of do experience a whole range of emotions and all sorts of emotions and emotional experiences. And I feel like even humor is something that is part of experiencing a Tedeschi Trucks Band show, and this is like an example of that. I feel like because maybe it was in their contract they have to play anyhow X number of times live. But I don't know that Chevrolet was in the contract. I don't know. I think that's more having
somebody else's song. I don't think that was
right. That's more them having a sense of humor about it, which I think ultimately helps Chevy, the brand itself, and also like I don't know. It shows that the band has a sense of humor and could diffuse any sort. What's that?
It's self-effacing. I mean, it's
right.
Like they know they're poking fun at. Yes. They know that we know, and they're like, yeah, it is what it is, and we're gonna have fun, and we're gonna, I think that's so awesome.
Even the casual fan could pick that out. You didn't have to be a diehard like we are. But that was the one thing I wished I could have seen Derek or Susan after the show, just to kind of laugh about that and get there, just kind of get how Derek tongue-in-cheek did that, but didn't get a chance to do that. But it was awesome. It just hit the spot, because again, it's a great song, and you very rarely get to hear it. So that made it even more special after the humor part of it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get more of it. I think we'll get more of that. And yeah, no, it's cool that and maybe it's not exactly this, but in some sense it's like the concept of like monetizing your haters, and they're kind of like turning the whole thing on its head and having fun while doing it. And so kudos to them for that. And again, like you're saying, David, it's an awesome song, yeah, for sure. And yeah, something I haven't actually heard in a while. I need to dive back in some older shows where they played that. There are a few that are my favorites on the archive over the years, that Chevrolets and that.
Yes, I've heard it several times. It's been a while, but definitely
with Mike on vocal, of course.
Yes, yeah. Buy me a Chevrolet. And then we got some brothers there, a little Done Somebody Wrong.
Oh yeah.
Gabe and Susan trading off the vocals, and Derek, of course, ripping it up. Was awesome. And then we did get Midnight. I think it was. I can't recall ever hearing it like this before. There was no Derek intro. There was no Kebby sax. It just went right into the song. I couldn't recall hearing it that way before. But there was no intro whatsoever. Just Derek playing the opening chords, and Susan was into the lyrics, within a few seconds. So it's kind of different, beautiful. Love the lighting on that. It's just and that certainly the casual fan, is oohing and ahhing. My one pet peeve is sometimes when they're hitting the quiet note, whether it's guitar or vocal, and you've got somebody whistling, or something, when you really want to hear that.
Or talking.
Yes, or talking. Oh my gosh. We could hear a lot of talking during Gabe's set. It was disappointing. I said to my wife, I said, "Is that talking we're hearing behind us?" And she frowned and said, "Yes." And then we got the dynamic duo there, Circles and Passaquan. And I guess I kind of figured out now, if you see the extra guitar stand over by Derek, then Bobby's going to bring out the 335, and you're going to get a Passaquan. And so Circles again is so haunting, and so just is awesome. And then segueing into Passaquan, which gives about half the band a 20-minute break, and then as we said before, Peter, in your version, I mean Derek and the drums. The one thing I will say, I would like to see again, and I mentioned it before, Adam, when we saw him in Mobile on Wheels of Soul, which was right after Jacksonville, Peter, when they debuted, that Brandon had a real nice bass solo. You go back and listen to that version, and I haven't heard one since, but a real nice real nice bass solo in there. That's the one thing for me. I like Brandon. I love the bass.
Me too.
You know, so I'm always up for that. But obviously Derek and Gabe has a nice keyboard section on there on the organ as well. So Pensacola just continues to evolve and is so amazing. And then we got It Just Won't Burn. That's been I've played almost every night, I think, on the Florida run, and you know they can play that every night, and it moves me every time. That's one of the ones where Susan plays so softly, and I feel like you could hear a pin drop. It just and when the crowd gets quiet, and I think someone that yelled at some point said something like, "I love you, Susan," or something during that. And she just kind of laughed or whatever. And I think she said, and Derek's put up for me for 23 years, or that was her response or something like that, that Derek had put up with her for 23 years. And then Stand Back and Mr. Clean. I have to say, Peter, you need to go back and hear it again. That Mr. Clean. Yeah. Oh my God. I think that could have gotten the biggest rise out of the crowd in Pensacola. It really the horns. Ephraim's got a great solo on that. Derek's guitar is off the hook. Obviously, there isn't any slide on the original version, at least that I can hear. I think George Benson played the guitar on the original version. So Derek's slide on that and the horns. I like that groove. I love that. I was shocked that was the end of the set. It seemed like it went by so fast. Crowd was very appreciative. And then they came out. They skipped Outside Woman Blues and just came out and did Made Up Mind. I think we got an Outside Woman Blues earlier on the Florida run, but Made Up Mind. A lot of clapping. Everybody did stand for the encore.
Good.
You know, I'm not sure what it is, but they can stretch their legs during the encore, but not any other time during the night. But for the encore, and then of course, as we all know, Mark Rivers kills the end of Made Up Mind. I love to watch Susan just smiling when Mark is doing his thing. You know, it's just and then they left and left us wanting more after the show. No doubt about it.
That's awesome. Bummed I missed one.
I really love that Just Won't Burn is in this set list and in these set lists. It really is something different than everything else in the set list, being a slow blues, but it's a very heavy slow blues. And I think it's just, I don't know, something about hearing that song amongst all these other songs. I imagine it's being like, it's like almost reminding you, taking back to a time in your life where maybe you were suffering more and kind of like feeling those feelings, but also in the context of exercising them in a way, because music is like a catharsis, I think. So just, I don't know, I just like the idea of like having that slow blues in the middle of this set list. And obviously it's such a Susan centric song, and you know, giving a shout out to her solo and early days and all that. It's just a cool show all around. Like, look at this. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I'll give you one other tidbit. So she announced the band, and she did mention to everybody that Falcon is from Pensacola. And she said Pensacola's own, you know, Falcon on drums. And she goes, y'all should be proud of that. She goes, I'm proud of it. I've been playing in bands with him for almost 50 years. I was in a band with him before TTB. She goes, y'all should be proud of him. You know, she just really was pumping Falcon up in his hometown. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, she runs the show up there. She works the audience and is in control of the room. Like, I always kind of, the way I think of it, I guess, is like she's you know, running the program, and he's the music coordinator, kind of like, you know, directing the band, and she's directing the audience and making sure she hits all the marks and introduces everyone and is charming and conversational with the audience in a way. like she definitely does make every show feel like it's special and you're special. And that can be a challenging thing to do. Like, and these musicians and people who travel all the time, they joke about not knowing what the hell city they're in. And some have gotten the names wrong and need a Snickers bar or whatever. It happens. But, Susan's pretty on top of that stuff. And I appreciate that, because that's part of the work and effort and prep that goes into putting on a good show, beyond just like singing the right notes and hitting the right notes and all that. Like, all the professionalism aspects of things. What else should we talk about? What else do we need to cover? Anything else? What do you guys have to say?
I would just say it was a great run in Florida. They, and Peter, you would know, being in town. I mean, they don't usually do a lot of shows in Florida. They used to do that old Sunshine Festival in Florida, and they will do Jacksonville, usually as the first night of the Wheels of Soul. But they usually don't move around Florida too much.
Excuse me. Well, a couple of things. I've been very, very lucky, because we've got a tiny little venue in downtown Tallahassee called Cascades Park, and they played it twice now. It's a few hundred people venue, which
Wow.
sound is terrible, but how cool is it to see them in such a small place? But I don't know if you guys know this, but and maybe this, I don't know. I saw him at a Publix one time. Their son goes to FSU. So I think that might help them maybe play Florida more. I mean, they're clearly like here this time of year.
Gotcha.
But my thing is, a lot of bands have stopped. I mean, Bobby Weir's playing on Friday in Jacksonville, but a lot of bands don't play Florida, it seems. And certainly not anymore. And so I just thought it was kind of a neat thing for them to do, to like, hey, we're going to play not just in Florida, we're going to play all over Florida. And if you live in Florida, you're going to see Tedeschi Trucks. And I just thought that was a really neat, as a Floridian, something really cool of them to do. So I appreciated that a lot.
Well, it sounds like some people are willing to head in from Georgia as well to see them. So,
Exactly.
So it's not just people from Florida, even if the shows themselves are in Florida. Thank you guys. I appreciate the time for sure, and all the stories. I don't know if you guys are plugging or promoting anything. David Flamm's YouTube channel is a good place to watch some content that he's filmed.
I can leave you with one other crazy little story from Pensacola.
Sure,
July.
do it.
So,
do it.
Peter, I hope to see you in Jacksonville.
Oh, absolutely.
Start off Wheels of Soul. We gotta connect up.
Absolutely.
And, so we, my wife and I do the T-shirts, as you know, Adam, and she made a couple of new ones. So we were wearing them in Pensacola last night, and the guy sits down next to us and he goes, so you went into the store and they just happened to have the same tie-dye design and just had different, lyrics on it or whatever. And I said, it's amazing what you can get at one of those Alvin's stores. Alvin's is a beachwear place in Florida, Adam. And the guy just cracked up. And he's like, wow, that's pretty funny. And another guy came walking up to us and said, oh, man, I love your shirts. He was from D.C. He was down. His son is, I guess, flight guy in Pensacola for the Navy. They've got that down there. And he mentioned he's going to a couple of the shows for the Warner. Yeah, but he came down just to see his son, but he made sure he came down when TTB was playing so he could go to the show. So it's funny. But a couple of funny things about the T-shirts that they
always.
So you can get them at Alvin's.
Very cool. All right, guys. On that note, I'll let you guys get on with the rest of your evening. If you want to chat a little more after I do my little outro thing, you guys can hang out for a minute. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Adam.
Yeah,
Thank you, Peter.
David. Peace. So there you go, episode 102. That was super fun, recapping a couple of Florida shows with Peter and David. I hope to do more of these fan panel things. It was super cool. I don't know if I could have recapped Orlando into this episode. Also, it would have been a 1.5 to 2 hour episode. So we'll continue to work on that. But I definitely want to talk to more fans and about more shows and recapping them and the whole thing, and keep going with that. But I hope everyone is doing okay out there. Please check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. It's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. Subscribe to the show on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. Subscribe on YouTube. Like the videos. Share the videos. I'm at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter if you want to follow me. TedeschiTrucksBand.com is the website for the band. Buy the merch, buy tickets to shows, join the Swamp Family fan club, support the band in any way you can. They are super awesome, as we just talked about on this episode, on this podcast. At People We Love Podcast on Instagram is my other podcast, peoplewelovepodcast.com. TheEditedMovie.com is my short film. Please check that out. I think that's about all I got. If you're a fan and you're going to shows, reach out, and we'll try to get you on. I appreciate it. But on that note, everyone enjoy the rest of your night or day or whatever time of day it is while you're listening. And we will talk soon. Later.